So your dad has an Emmy, a Genie, 2 Golden Globes. Your mom's an acclaimed actor. And your brother, well, he's noted ass-kicker Jack Bauer.
I'm gonna cover you. Make a run for the door. You ready? Go! Go!
You'd follow in those family footsteps too, wouldn't you, right? Well, Rossif Sutherland didn't think so. In fact, even though he spent time on sets as a child, for the first 20 years of his life, he didn't think that acting was for him, and with good reason. In high school, he grudgingly took part in a school play, and halfway into the first act, he forgot his lines and walked off stage. So while acting didn't seem like a good option, there was plenty that Rossif was good at. Loved music, loved writing, went to Princeton to study philosophy, but at his father, Donald Sutherland's encouragement, he took some acting on the side. And as it turns out, well, he loved it, and he was good at it.
Secret is moderation.
I wonder what kind of acting advice he got from his old man. Well, we'll get into that. Things have gone well for Rossif, a recurring role on ER.
He's tough, but he's got the goods, you know?
And he pulled no punches, playing a fighter in the bloody-knuckle Canadian film called Poor Boy's Game. Now he's joined the Canadian cop series King, carving out an identity for himself in an industry where his name precedes him.
I have a master's in criminology, an exemplary record in surveillance, and I'm tall, so I can reach for things on the top shelf.
Please welcome to the show, Rossif Sutherland.
I'm sick, buddy, but
How are you, bud?
I'm very well.
Good. You have a cold. Thank you for letting me know. You're like Purelling like crazy. Hey, man, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
How are things?
Things are good, man. I'm living in Canada, which is my home, and I'm working. So I'm a privileged actor. Life is good.
It's a cool thing. A lot of people from all over the world have to travel to work, and when you land yourself a TV show in your own country, that's got to feel like when you first got the call. You're on King, his show. When you got that call, was that a big part of the relief, knowing you were going to be here?
Yeah, I just moved to Toronto a year ago because of heartbreak, and I stayed because of work. And the people of King, I met with the executive producer and the creator, and they were doing the show, which had already survived 1 season, which was a good sign, and they wanted to create some character for me, except it wasn't written yet. And this is the first time that I've signed on to something without actually getting to read what I'm getting myself into. But I'm glad I did, because sometimes you just gotta jump in and trust. And
Moved because of heartbreak?
oh my, I should never have said that. Yeah, sure. Sometimes you gotta reinvent the world in which you're in, and love is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's enchanting and all enveloping and all that, but once it's done, I mean, man, So I had to run away.
Well, look, you've had this ability to figure things out, even though you don't plan them. You rejected the idea of being an actor as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, I had no desire to be an actor, not because I didn't respect what my father does for a living, what my mother did for a living, my brother does. I mean, this is a family business. Yeah. But I ultimately didn't think that, I didn't want to spend my life pretending to be other people. That was the extent of what I thought acting was.
See, I wondered if part of you on a pop psychology level, if deep down, part of the reason not to be an actor as a kid is because it took your father away from you, and you didn't really get to know another part of your family because of it. So if in a way, acting represented something in a bad way.
Sure, same as Los Angeles, where I lived for 7 years, and I dreaded it from the moment I was there. Represented that same thing, which was, it was a city that took my dad away. But yeah, ultimately, I fell in love with acting. And it was very much, I've said this before, but I can't really describe it any other way. It was like falling in love with my next door neighbor. Somebody I've grown up with all my life. And except one day, I realized, God, this woman, she's just, she's beautiful.
Well, you seem to have found something that a lot of guys can't do, which is you seem to be okay with being incredibly vulnerable, and it never seems bullshitty when you do it. Have you pushed yourself too far into that world? Because it's an emotional job if you do it right.
If I weren't vulnerable, I wouldn't be doing my job. But there's also the reality that I never watched my own work, so I never actually get to see how vulnerable I get. So it's like somebody saying, will you take your clothes off? It's like, fine, man, I'll take my clothes off, except I never actually come to the reality that somebody will actually see me with my clothes off.
Well, your journey to this place starts at a cool place. Obviously, as you said, it's like the girl next door. I want to play a clip. Let's go back ages ago. Take a look at this clip here. No, it's not you, but close. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
On August 4th, 1987, the final scenes of Bethune begin to unfold. Today, there is a cast of thousands. All of the villagers of this valley have come to recreate Norman Bethune's funeral. It's the kind of scene that's been expected from the start.
That's from a special of the making of that film,
Yeah.
Which is the Bethune film. Which
I was there.
You were there for that?
Yeah.
You went for like 8 months to China or something like that?
They opened up the gates of China to this Occidental crew because we were telling a story about, you know, a Canadian communist. And
this is not like the China of today. It was very different then.
It was extraordinary.
You can get used to going on sets. When did you stop going on those set visits?
I kept going on sets all throughout my childhood, and even when I was, you know, 20, 22, I'd still go and visit my dad. But my first experience actually being on a set as not the son of was I was a boom operator. Terrible boom operator. Probably the worst boom operator that's ever lived. I have the qualities that, you know, that are necessary for a boom operator. I'm tall, man, I'm tall. But the thing about, you know, you got this long boom, and at the end of it, there's a microphone, and you're working indoors, and you got to learn everybody's lines because, you know, you got to move the microphone back and forth. And if you're working indoors, oftentimes the ceilings are pretty low. I remember those panic attacks I'd have. It was always the choice of, am I going to hit the actor in the head or am I going to hit the ceiling? Either way, it was no good.
Did you ever hit anybody?
I did, yeah, man. But anyway, it was a beautiful experience, and I'm so thankful I had it.
He was on ER, and when you were on ER, did you audition for a character that you didn't get, but they liked you, so they wrote another character for you?
Yeah, I was auditioning for a guy who was a doctor who had a heart problem from a very early age. And I went into this room, and there were just all these producers, and it was nerve-wracking. I mean, and I do my thing, and they're all laughing their heads off, and I think, wow, man, I got the job. I got the job. And I go back home, and I get a phone call from my manager, and he says, what the hell did you do, Rossif? And so I didn't get the job. But ultimately, the executive producer of the show thought, you know, there was something there, and so they wrote a part for me. My father, when I was first starting out with these things, he always consoled me with this story. He said, Rossif, you know, when I was first starting out, there was this movie. I loved the movie. I was perfect for it. I was right for it. I went to audition. I did my thing. It was beautiful. I came back home, packed my bags. Then there's the phone call. It's the writer, the producer, the director. They're all on the line. They say, Donald, you know, audition, beautiful. It was extraordinary. Thing is that we are looking for a guy next door kind of guy, and we don't think you live next door to anybody. And I get that. People don't really know what to do with me, which is fine. So you have to write a part for me. It's cool, you know.
You got to check it out. It's a show's called King. You got to watch everything that this guy does. You can see King on Showcase, by the way. Rossif Sutherland, everybody. Thank you.